Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and today we have a special guest in studio, a pretty rare presentation for us to actually have someone live in the studio. But Alan Naumann, the publisher editor of Green News Utah, is here with us today. Alan, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you.
Thanks. This is really a treat. I'm usually doing the interviews and not being the subject, so this is kind of unusual. Thank you.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here today, Alan. You know, you and I happen to live in a very red state, very conservative state.
Yes.
And so it's kind of an interesting thing to see someone take on that conservative mindset here in Utah and to lead out on environmental issues. Why have you tackled that?
Well, it's a cultural shift. We've been doing things in the past, 50 years, 100-year patterns, utilities. It's an old pattern. Build it, have it centrally located, burn something, and send the electricity down the lines. The models are changing. Our culture is changing in so many ways that, it just takes time for people to change. Some people stay with the old way because they like it, and it's familiar. And we know that from our own habits around the house. Familiarity, when I drive somewhere, I go the same route. With just familiarity is comfortable. And so I don't see the opposition as enemies. My philosophy or spirituality teaches me oneness. We're all the same, really, when it comes down to it. So it's just a matter of progress. It's just a matter of we need more conversation. I like news. It's just more conversation, more information into the discussion. And so I believe that will result in positive change for our world and our country.
Sure. Now, one of the interesting things about solar power today, especially, seems to me, based on what I'm hearing, that at utility scale, it is now cheaper to build solar than to operate, not build, it's cheaper to build solar than to operate a coal-fired power plant.
Yes, solar has come down. When I started solar in 2009, I was charging $8.50 a watt. We tried to get $10 a watt. Now it's less than $3.50 a watt, 1/3 the price it was just a few years ago. Utility scale, where they just do a bunch of them, is even cheaper than that. They can get a cost per watt under $2. And so the price, 3 to 5 cents a kilowatt hour, is very competitive with coal, which is considered the cheapest source, but it's not true because you don't pay for pollution. Some people are concerned about climate change. You don't pay for climate change. And what's unique about Utah is there's no severance tax on coal in the state of Utah. All our neighbors have 3 to 7% severance tax, which means the people of the state get a little piece of the extraction for social good, which is schools. Everybody wants school money in Utah because we're the lowest spender per pupil in the country. Number 50 out of 50. And so as a logical place to get more revenue would be charge coal a severance tax. And I'm advocating 7%, the top of that range, but 3.3 as a minimum is a no-brainer. But in this culture in Utah, they want things cheap. They want to be open for business. And, we love things being less expensive. But there's a cost to that.
But wouldn't it be cheaper? Wouldn't our power be cheaper if we were operating more solar? Isn't that really the bottom line today?
Yes. Solar is renewable, so it's clean. There's no byproducts. There's no maintenance. If it's hooked up correctly electrically, there's no maintenance for 30 years. I mean, it's a solution. And the solar industry in other states, it's booming in Utah. We're coming from 1% of total energy in the state, but in the nation, solar industry in about 10 or 12 main states that are doing the most of it, 20 times the job creation rate than the average economy. And when the president came our president came to Utah to talk about getting veterans retrained into renewable energy. And why I'm in media, one of the reasons is there wasn't covered part of this 20 times the job creation of the national economy or Utah's economy. And Utah doesn't want to face that this is an alternative. It's economic now. And that's why the big boys are getting into it. You know, Bank of America, they're lending for it. And so there's a 30% federal tax credit still for solar, which will end in a year and a half. So a lot of the push is meeting a deadline.
Yeah.
2016 is the end of this 30% federal tax credit for commercial or for small homeowners. So with the politics today, we can't rely on that will be extended. People hope it will. But part of the push is to meet this deadline in a year and a half, and it'll fall to 10% instead of 30. And but solar is so economical, we don't believe we'll see a decline in year 2017, but it won't be. It'll be a solid business in America forever.
Yeah, just given the simple economics, ignoring subsidies, but there are some subsidies built into fossil fuels already. You mentioned the fact that there's no severance tax on the coal. You could argue that's in effect a subsidy, especially compared to other locations. But there are also some tax benefits that are built into the tax code, aren't there, that support oil and gas extraction?
Well, generally, air pollution, and even if you, and some say climate change, of course, we thank the Pope today for talking about climate change as an issue. We're spiritually, it's time for us to take care of our Mother Earth, and we have to face that, you know, some of our actions are, you know, we can see clean water in the lakes and rivers. You know, we're just not taking care of our environment the way we need to. And in Utah, refineries are right in the urban center. They've been here a while, so, you know, people don't want to kick them out. But the state is spending more money to subsidize them, maybe $10 million out of the $70 million it'll take them to convert to a Tier 3 fuel. Tier 3 fuel will reduce pollution from automobiles 80% if the automobile can take the new fuel combined with the new fuel. So that's several years away. That's 5-10 years away. It's not going to help Salt Lake County this year or next. It's 5 to 10 year process, but we're not solving air pollution, but we're subsidizing, you know, the refineries, millions, tens of millions of dollars to, you know, to convert, which some say they should be doing already anyway on their own, because that's, you know, what we need from our producers is good, cleaner fuel.
Yeah. Well, interesting
Well,
dynamics. You've become a role model, I think, for a lot of people in Utah,
I don't know.
especially in the environmental movement. Who do you look to as a role model?
Well, in the environmental movement, I'd have to say just movements in general. You know, spiritual leaders like Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi are my mentors, because they're spiritually based. And I don't say everybody has to be spiritually based, but I am, and it's important to me. And they were nonviolent. They stood. What I like is standing for something that you believe in at all cost, because you believe in it, not because, you know, in the face of harm, in the face of clubs, water, whatever, but doing it anyway. That to me, that's courageous, and that's what the world needs more of. People willing to stand up for what they believe, rather than saying, oh, you know, let the leaders do it. Because I'm just saying, in Utah, all the leaders are not always doing it for you.
Yeah, that's true. Now, you could be doing anything, but you really devoted your life to clean energy. You sell solar, you publish the Green News Utah. Why? Why has that become your thing? You could be doing anything. Why this?
Well, I'm partial to the earth and green. I don't know. I think the most important issues are war and peace, and rich and poor. And I have been leaning on green, which I think is really the third down the list, but very, very important. And the Pope's announcement today is mixing the rich and poor issue with the green issue. And these are just things we've got to be more aware of. And green, I just like, you know, the outdoors. I just love the atmosphere, being outside. You know, people come to Utah because it's a red state, because they love the place. You know, they like to go outside, and it's an outside culture. You know, inside the house, I'm not getting all my needs met. You know, so I love it outside, and you know, I see trash being thrown on the trails. You know, it just bugs me. You know, I want to try and do something. And so I'm not attached to solving all the problems, but I want to be able to say that I've done what I can, you know, and from my strength in my younger years, you know, I wasn't so busy doing all this. And now it's part of me. I think it's been there all the way, all the time, but now it's just a bigger part of me. It's more important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
I guess the answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I just do it because it's what I feel I need to do.
Now, clearly, you're having an impact in Utah. You're doing something. You're doing something that matters. You know, the people who watch the show come from all walks of life, but they all have one interest in common, whether they are impact investors or philanthropists, whether they are nonprofit leaders or entrepreneurs. Whatever they are, they want to have more impact. Give us one tip for having more impact based on your experience.
I would have to say, take care of yourself, give from strength. You put the gas mask on yourself. If the plane's going down, you put it on yourself first before you put it on your child or your mother. You know, you have to take care of yourself. First, you have to give from strength, and strength will help you through. You know, you see tragedy today. I'm trying to look for Pope news, you know, on climate, and CNN is playing shooting at a church, and so you know, I stay strong in spite of that because I know there's a bigger picture. You know, that's not. Just because it's on CNN doesn't mean it's a small sliver of the human experience. And I'm trying to bring the balance, you know, more about all this other stuff going on, you know, nonprofits that are trying to make a difference here in Salt Lake and Utah to pressure the government to do more, because clearly the government's not doing enough. So, you know, give them some airtime. You know, what are they doing? And in fact, the Citizens Climate Lobby, 7 people from Utah are going to Washington, D.C. to lobby for climate change. And this weekend, the tar sands resistance activists are going to be out in Book Cliffs because they oppose tar sands, the first 3 permits in the country, not just, you know, in America, are all 3 in Utah with this, you know, with the leadership that we have here saying, yes, you don't have to worry about water. They gave a permit to not worry about water in their experiment. And so there's people that are saying, you know, this may not be such a good idea. And they're going to be out there camping in the woods next to the thing this weekend. And even this Monday, they may be an occurrence. They may, you know, these people chain themselves to stuff sometimes and climb trees and sit in them for years. You know, people are doing stuff, and that's fascinating to me.
It is interesting. It is interesting. Well, Alan, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, tell us how people can find Green News Utah and connect with you. GreenNewsUtah.com, the website, and the most active part is the Facebook group we have is GreenNewsUtah.com Facebook group. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Fantastic. Well, again, Alan, thank you very much for being with us today, and we wish you every success. No, my pleasure. Thank you, Devin. What a treat. It's a pleasure. Let's do some good. Let's do some good.